So then, let's start with some other question. Anyone up? Go ahead.
Have you seen the Takedown movie yet?
Have we seen the Takedown movie? Yes, I saw it. I don't remember what circumstances I saw it under.
They played it at DEF CON last year.
Say it louder?
They played it at DEF CON last year. I don't know if
They played it at DEF CON. Yes, I was not at DEF CON that year. However, I did manage to see it. I forget how or why it came around. But I did get to see it. It was interesting and sort of baddish. It didn't turn out as poorly as I thought it would, but it still was pretty poor.
Personally, I thought it was a pretty good movie if you took it as fiction.
You thought it was?
A pretty good movie if you took it as fiction.
Yes, it was.
Relate to real life, but
It's something that you should have taken as fiction and really could only take as fiction. But if you try and add the real story that everybody knows, or that now everybody I hope knows, you see, then it just doesn't stack up very well. Any other questions?
When you guys were interviewing the scenes when they're interviewing people for
What does it take in?
one of those guys looked exactly like...
Oh, it takes eighth engine?
It is.
Oh,
We happened to run into him just by chance. We didn't realize it until we were in.
I thought you were saying that was
He
the
told us.
You told us?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to be filming everything?
I didn't realize it until we were
Hey,
in.
what is it?
I just thought they were just doing this one. We got the other stuff going there, but
What was the 20 minutes we took out?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I don't know, man.
There was all sorts of stuff that didn't really apply very well. For example, there was a great section where Veggie was talking about what a hacker is, what the CDC did, and Veggie was talking about for like 5 minutes of that. And it was great. We loved it. It worked really well. Unfortunately, it was not part of the story. And we had to cut some time. As you know, it did last too long. And so eventually we decided that's one of the things we had to cut. We also cut down some of the sections, like MetroCard, when the Funcast first came out. You know, we were down there letting people in for free. We cut at least 3/4 of that out.
No, we cut 3/4 of it out.
It's still in
1/4
there.
left.
We cut a whole lot out of it. Other questions?
How many time period between metro cards?
The time period between
When you swipe the metro card.
18 minutes.
18 minutes from when you can swipe it to when you can swipe it in the same terminal. What you can do, and what not what a lot of people do anymore, but what I still do is you swipe it, you go into the train, you go to your source, to your destination, and you swipe again on the way out, because it doesn't matter how fast you use between stations. You can use them instantly in all like 35 stations that you can get copies of the card for, and let 35 people, not 34 people, in for free. Other questions? Comments?
The general public doesn't really know much about hacking or even about computers. So how do you explain the Kevin Pittman story? If you're trying to explain it to the average man or woman on the street, how would you, if they're coming to an honest, question? So how do you explain it?
How do we explain the Kevin situation to people on the street?
To win them over and explain to them that an injustice has been done.
What you saw in the documentary is pretty much how we did it. It was really fast.
We had usually flyers with us describing the entire thing in detail, and then we went over it briefly as we spoke to them. A lot of people didn't believe it, as you saw, and so we had to sort of find ways to let them, if what we were saying was true, that this is how they feel about that in the film. In general, we find people that actually, a lot of the people we tell and we talk to just happen to be people like you see here, people who do realize that things do go wrong on occasion, and won't completely disbelieve anything you're saying just because you're anti-government or something. So it helps to have a lot of practice in it, actually, to be able to cite references and procedures, to show them that you do know what you're talking about. That's really all I can say on that.
I have two more questions. First of all, where has this movie been shown, and where do you plan to show it?
It has been shown at film festivals all over the place, really, and movie theaters here and there. We've shown it at the New York Film Festival, which is in New York and actually moved to Nevada for some reason. We've shown it at the Woodstock Film Festival. We've shown it at film festivals in Ohio. We've shown it science fiction convention, I believe we showed it in. We've shown it here, and of course we're selling it. Also, actually, this is something you might not know of. We're broadcasting it on Free Speech TV sometime in the fairly near future. Free Speech TV is a channel, public access-ish channel, available from DirecTV, not DirecTV, Dish Network, and several others, and it's also web broadcast.
Okay, secondly, why wasn't there more interviews with himself on this film, or what did he allow?
He was in jail.
He was, okay.
It was just the very, very end of our production sequence. It was like maybe a week before we showed it here that we got that tape, I believe. That sounds about right.
Do you plan to include the interview with Kevin on the DVD?
That's a good question. I hadn't thought of it. Maybe Emmanuel has. It would be an interesting idea, yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. Questions? Yes.
Yeah, it was never released in the U.S. Do you think that was because of what you guys did?
I doubt it. It's such a bad movie.
Oh, it's just crap.
It wouldn't fly here.
It's not a great movie. However, we did make changes. What we did have effect. Everybody did know. Everybody in Miramax knew about what we were doing, and the changes would not have been made without us, without our intervention. I'm convinced of that. Is that the reason why it did not get released in the United States? I don't know. Sometime it may be released to television. It's never going to be in theaters. Yes.
Speaking side of the phone side of it is like the handset audio is way louder than what's on the line. I'm hungry.
I also noticed that couldn't do the other guys' interviews mostly because you didn't find version of Roger. And I think that's one of the best defenses for Kevin is letting his opposition speak. And what they do, they always seem to make fools of themselves. What are we missing from the film that we're not seeing? Where we can see Gustafson to make these statements.
How do you mean?
Because every time I hear like evidence brought up by the side, it always seems to confirm the pro-Kevin side.
Yes.
Yeah, so and that's kind of something that we were missing from the film, and I know that wasn't the intention of the film.
You mean
It is a pro-Kevin movie.
Yeah, it is a pro-Kevin movie. Yeah, exactly. But
at least in the beginning, NYPD Blue, their sort of shaky cam thing that they started was something that we had sort of tried to emulate in the very beginning. Sort of fell through, but then looking at it in the end, we sort of did have it. I think that's all I can say about to that. Yes, go ahead.
Did you all have a previous filmmaking experience?
I had TV production in high school. That's not really filmmaking. That's it. That's pretty much all I had making this. Same thing with Emmanuel. He had not done this before. However, he's been wanting to do it for years. I remember the first time he approached me about it was when I was talking something abstract about video after the '97 conference. Have you ever done filmmaking before?
I myself have not done filmmaking before.
Yes, and you in the grayish shirt. Yeah, you. What? Okay, go ahead.
very good film. I think it has very good points. Also, really shows a lot of good, true information. I'm curious to see here what the general reception from other areas that were presented this to some of the general public.
The general reception of people in different areas of the general public. It varies a lot depending on who you show it to. We can show it to hackers, and obviously you know what the outcome is going to be there. At film festivals, the people are also pretty wide open in general. They've lived they've lived a long, hard life, a lot of them, and they can identify with some of the things said in the documentary and generally like it. In Europe, we've shown it a couple of times, and there were a couple of small jokes that were sort of, I don't really recall any specific examples. The closest thing I can recall is we had gone to the national labs, and we said it was home of well-kept nuclear secrets. And about a week, we had already edited that, it was out, it was in the can, and about a week before we showed it, we had the nuclear secrets were leaked from the same laboratory. So it sort of had a original joke, and people laughed a whole lot more in Europe than they did here. At the end of Hollywood, we had that's the way life is. That's the way American life. This is America. That's the way. You know what I'm talking about. That I can't remember the exact quote right now, but in Europe, they laughed a whole lot more at that, and depending on who we showed it to in film theater, in the film festivals, people there laughed out loud. They were rolling with laughter. And when we showed it to a group of science fiction buffs, they didn't get it. So it varied a whole lot. And the yellow lanyard there.
How was Kevin's trial delayed for so long? The prosecution is following this delays in motions, or did a trial date just never materialize?
Both.
Each question.
Why was the trial delayed so long? Emmanuel's a much better a much better answer to this, I'm sure. But basically, it was each side trying to push it further back. No single side was responsible for it, I don't think. But it was a lot of motions. There was more motions in this case than in. I heard this statistic. It was more motions in this case than there was in any other case in the history of that court. It was just motion after motion after motion, each one requiring extra time to delay the trial. And Kevin was actually trying to get the trial. However, he was not prepared to do it on in unfair waters. So when it was necessary, I believe he also agreed to delay it. However, I would honestly, after seeing all the evidence and all the papers, I would attribute it to the state of California a lot more than I would to Kevin. Yes, go ahead.
How much did it cost to produce this movie? Activists never answered this question, asked this question. I wonder why.
How much money did it cost to do this whole thing? That's a
$30 million.
That's a good question, and we don't really know, nor do we really want to. In independent film, it's always a given that you will never, ever, ever make back the money you put into making it. And this is no exception. It's hard to put a number on it because we'd be living anyway. So if we're living here or if we're living in a car traveling across the United States, it's really not a whole lot different. We're not sure how to add all that together. I can tell you the camera cost a few thousand. We spent a few thousand in tapes. We had a special machine set aside with thousands of hard drives. Apparently, it was probably about 30 hard drives in this machine. We had a big machine to do this, and other random expenses of flights and so on and so forth. How much did it cost in the end? There's really no number that we can put a finger on, and I'm sorry, that's the best answer I have to give. Over there. How much did it cost the taxpayers to prosecute Kevin? I know it was a big number when it was released by someone or calculated by someone. And my brain is telling me 35 million, but I'm not sure. I really don't know, and Emmanuel might, if and when he gets here. He should have been here a while ago. Yes, go ahead.
Who would you have liked to have interviewed and why? And also, did you film the return of the rental car?
Who would
We
you-
filmed everything, but not everything made it into the movie. I mean, we've got, I think, what was it in the end? 80 hours of...
It was 100 hours.
100 hours of film. So, you know, I mean,
So we
it's
shot
probably
everything.
not that interesting returning the car. We, you know,
It was probably just, haha, this is kind of funny, our trunk broke, haha, and let's film it because it's funny.
yeah, we get to see it, but you guys never will.
We just filmed it because, you know, film was kind of sort of cheap, not really, but it was cheap enough that we could just, you know, do stuff like that. So we did. Your other question was,
Who would you have liked to have interviewed? and
who would we
why?
have liked to have interviewed and why? Obviously, Satomu Shimomura would have been at the top of that list for obvious reason. We could never find him, and we did make a valiant effort to do that. Who else should we have interviewed? I'm not sure if it would work out very well, but some of the actors from Takedown might have been interesting to interview. At least, you know, maybe not in depth. I'm not sure how much they would have to contribute to it, but it would have been interesting to see, you know, more sides of this. As you know, the producers ran away from us as we tried to find them. So that they would also have been pretty interesting to talk to as far as, but I think Miramax just sort of changed their mind on an official level and just they ran away instead of, or maybe they were never authorized to talk to us in the first place, is another guess. Other people to talk to, I can't really think of any, can you? Other questions? Comments? Items? Okay, I guess Emmanuel never made it. Sorry about that. We'll be hanging around up here if you want to ask us anything individually, and I'm sure Emmanuel will be here shortly, maybe, perhaps.